The information I'm providing you on Martha Tabram is from Wikipedia. Martha was born on the 10th of May 1849 and died on the 7th of August 1888. She was an English woman killed in a state of violent murder in and around the Whitechapel district of East London between 1888 and, for some reason, 1889. She may have been the first victim of the unidentified serial killer Jack the Ripper. Although not one of the canonical 5 Ripper victims whom historians have broadly acknowledged, she is considered the next most likely candidate. Martha sadly fell on hard times when her marriage was not going the way she wanted due to her drinking problems and staying out all night. Due to this, by the time that her husband had died, she had moved into lodgings in Spitalfields right next to Whitechapel, and her economical situation had become so bad that she was forced to prostitution. On the 6th of August 1888, the night before her murder, Martha had been drinking ale and rum with another woman and another long-time prostitute, Mary Ann Connolly, known as Pearly Paul. The 2 soldiers in the public house, close to Line Yard building, 4 of them had paired off in the public house and separated just before midnight. In the early hours of the morning, a resident of the building, one Mrs. Hewitt, was awoken by cries of murder from a dominant voice that was shouting that in the communal area. At 2 a.m., 2 other residents, husband and wife, returned to the building and saw no one on the stairs. At the same time, P.C. Thomas Bennett questioned a gentleman nearby who replied he was waiting for a friend. At 3:30 a.m., resident Albert Crow returned home after a night shift as a cab driver and noticed Martha's body lying on the landing above the first flight of stairs. The landing was so dimly lit he mistook her for a sleeping woman, and was not until 5 a.m. that the resident came down the stairs on his way to work. A dock labourer realised she was dead. Reeves fetched Bennett, who'd sent for Dr. Robert Kilney to examine the body. The doctor arrived at 5:30 a.m. and established that Martha had died around 3 hours before. Her killer had stabbed her 39 times in the body and neck, including 9 times around the throat, and her lungs and her heart, as well as her spleen, stomach, and her lower abdomen and genitals. She was lying on her back. Testimony of the residents indicated that Martha was probably killed between 2 and 3:30 a.m. Investigation into the Jack the Ripper connection. Contemporary newspaper reports published at the beginning of September linked Martha's murder to those of Emma Elizabeth Smith, who died on the 3rd of April, and Mary Ann Nichols on the 31st of August. Though before she died, Smith had told the police that a gang had attacked her. The later killings of Annie Chapman on the 8th of September, of both Elizabeth Drive and Catherine Edders on the 30th of September, and Mary Ann Kelly on the 9th of November, were also linked at the time to Martha's. The last 5 murders mentioned are now generally referred to as the canonical 5 victims of Jack the Ripper. All were knife murders in the Whitechapel and Spitalfields area, generally participated in the darkness of the small hours of the morning, indicating public areas to gain access during weekends and holidays. The police did not connect the murders with Smith, but they did connect her death with the later 5 murders. Later, students of the Ripper murders have largely included Martha from the list of Ripper victims, chiefly because her throat was not cut in the manner of the other victims, nor was she elevated, as in presented to all the world. The view was advanced by the Chief Constable of the Metropolitan Police, who implied that Martha was murdered by an unidentified soldier and not Jack the Ripper. Similarly, on her autopsy done, apparently the wounds that she had participated in, or the weapons that had been used, were not the same weapons that we used in the Jack the Ripper victims. Several 20th century reports have assumed that Mary Ann Nichols to have been Jack the Ripper's first victim, but add that the murder was unlikely to have been his first attack. Some have suggested that Ripper may have murdered Martha before perfecting his overpowering and cutting the throat technique of his other victims. Other researchers have said that Martha should be counted as one of the Jack the Ripper victims. Now coming to my own words on the fact that the reason why that this memorial that we are very close to coming up to now is such a surprise is because lots of people on like case websites for Jack the Ripper victims have often wondered where Martha was buried, and there was some like sort of tantalizing reports online that had said that she was buried in the City of London cemetery, presumably in a communal grave, but there was no clinical records, like no one could find it in the actual records of City of London cemetery that she definitely was buried here. But obviously this has now been recognised because of her importance, and now the plaque I'm about to show you that I literally stumbled across has only literally just been installed literally just before I got to this grave. Thank you very much, guys. Okay guys, I've literally just stopped here right at the beginning of Gardener's Way in shock because I've just discovered something that I was not expecting, and that, turning around there, the City of London Cemetery, Martha Tabram, 1849 to 1888, Heritage Trail. Now the reason why I am just so shocked but so thrilled to see that is because Martha is what some people could say, was she actually the very first victim of Jack the Ripper? There was characteristics of her murder that was similar to Jack the Ripper, although it wasn't as sophisticated and that, which is why she's never been counted as one of the Concool Five, but sort of like one of the, was she maybe victims? And I did do research on her, and I had found out that supposedly she was buried in here. Now, I will give you more information about her once I've looked it up again. But as far as I know, she was a prostitute as well. So for some reason, no one has been able to clinically, although some people have found it on like the case files studies of Jack the Ripper, that she was buried in here. But obviously this has been added since October 2022 when I first came here, and that. So what I think I will do is I will add this as a chapter onto my other video, which, as you know, we're going to go back and see the new memorial, which is very much like this actually, to Joseph Merrick. So let's carry on. Yeah, there definitely is a theme about putting them here, but I suppose it does make sense because this is sort of like the ashes area, and also it could be where all the communal graves were. So yeah, that's the beginning of Garden of Memorial Way. So there's Martha, Sharona, and the City of London Cemetery. Thank you very much, guys.